Welcome back into the show, UFC 278 tonight from Salt Lake City. And thank goodness we've got somebody that actually knows something about fighting here. Let's bring on Erich Richter to Tapped Out from the New York Post, friend of the show. Before we get too far into this, so Mike Perry wins his BKFC fight by decision in overtime. I was wondering this. Who do you think's face has taken more damage over the years, Mike Perry or Aleister Overeem? Who do you think has needed more facial reconstruction surgery?
The elbow. Oh, I don't know, man. God, Aleister Overeem's face exploded at one time with. Oh
that
God, I don't know. I'd say the bar fights with Perry, those are countless. We don't know how many actually happened. So I think that's the X factor. You have to jump in on maybe the potential bar fights in Miami. I'd say that there's some X factor there with Perry. You give me dog odds on Perry, I'll take Perry with more facial damage.
I think Mike Perry's the type of guy where he actually looks better when his face is beat up. I think it's just part of his look. So broken jaw, crooked nose. I think it just adds to the lore that is Mike Perry, who is just he's found his home. This is a perfect place for him bare knuckle fighting. It
is. I mean, who wins, Jake Paul or Mike Perry?
I'm into that fight. I don't know who wins. I think I'd lean Mike Perry, but I'm definitely into that fight. Like you're telling me, I've been looking for something that gets me going to Jake Paul. So he calls him out after this fight. I'm into that fight. I think that's a fun one. I don't know if they'll do it in BKFC, but I'm into that for boxing too. I think that those are fun press conferences. That's an entertaining lead up. I think they should do it.
That's all that matters is the press conference.
Of course.
BT, Jake Paul was on your show this week. I saw in Miami, and Mike Perry was fighting. Did you not ask him that question? Did you not ask him about throwing down with him?
I didn't even ask him about fighting Mike Perry. I didn't even think of it kind of as a potential fight. But Mike Perry having the call out there, I'm into it. I would definitely be into that one. I didn't even think of it as a potential matchup.
No.
Well, we do know what the matchup's going to be tonight, UFC 278. Let's just go ahead and start with the one that has me the most confused, which is Merab Dvalishvili taking on Jose Aldo. Merab, the slight favorite at -140. The all-time great Jose Aldo at +120. Erich, which way are you looking in this one?
So when the odds came out, Merab Dvalishvili, hopefully I am pronouncing that name correctly, Dvalishvili opened as a +140 dog, and Aldo was -170 favorite. Then money came in on Dvalishvili. Obviously, now Dvalishvili is being bet up pretty high as a favorite. Saw Aldo at +125 right before I came on here. I'd say that Aldo's the play here, especially when he opened as a pretty sizable favorite at -170. Originally, the odds makers believed Aldo was the play. I would say Aldo by decision. My special play on this one's a little bit juicy. +900. +900 Aldo by split decision. And that is yep.
I like it.
So the fight to go to decision is -200. But Aldo is +900 to win by split decision. I mean, what's the roadmap there, right? So the roadmap would be first round, Dvalishvili maybe is fighting for takedowns, a lot of fence pushing. And then second and third round, Aldo, as Dvalishvili gets a little bit more tired from the fence pushing, Aldo's probably landing more strikes. We've seen recently that judges are rewarding strikers more than cage controllers. That's just what it is at this point, especially with the new trainings that were in July. They're up in Niagara. The post-Scott Fontana was there, and we've talked about the things that he learned there. They are really only interested in damage. So I would say that Aldo's going to be the play here by decision. And if you're looking for something a little tasty, +900 by split decision, I mean, why not?
That's a fascinating thing, man. So you're telling me that with these new regulations on how they're trying to judge these fights, because it typically, when we're looking at things, when odds come out, I do feel like grapplers and guys who have that advantage, they are always pretty favored because they always have that path to go. Do you think that's something that could really flip odds in the near future? If we start going the route of getting judges looking at strikes and damage even more?
Yeah, I do. I think that's a narrative to look at going forward. When you see a striker with good takedown defense, it doesn't seem like they're going to. At least recently, they haven't been rewarding grapplers who aren't getting takedowns, or if they are getting takedowns that don't result in ground and pound or submission attempts. That's what it seems like it's been recently. And according to, like I said, my colleague at the Post, Scott Fontana, that is something that the commissions are pushing. That's coming down from the chain is they want damage over positional control. So I would say Merab, I mean, he averages over 7 takedowns per 15 minutes. That's one of the best in the UFC, but that doesn't necessarily mean that in a good way. It more so means that he is getting takedowns, they're getting back up, getting takedowns again, getting back up and getting takedowns again. That's not damage. That's control, and that's great control, but that's not damage. So I would say that Aldo with a 90% takedown defense in his career is going to be the play there. Yeah, I'll take Aldo for sure all day.
Awesome insight always from our boy Erich Richter from the New York Post here on the BetQL network. By the way, last time that you were telling us that the odds flipped that much during the week, you were right. You were spot on. And so we ended up taking who you told us and made, at least I did, a little bit of money, put some money in that bank account, made sure that the dogs got the good food. So, yeah, Erich Richter, listen to what he says from the New York Post. You were talking about the way that the fights go down, the way they're judged, kind of how they're scored. So not to skip over the co-main event tonight, which is Costa versus Rockhold, but let's work our way back there. Uzman versus Edwards tonight. BT and I were going back and forth. Edwards, I think, is going to end up going off like a plus 300. Uzman at a minus 350. Do you see any path to victory for Leon Edwards? And what are the chances that he tries to wrestle Uzman tonight?
I haven't really thought about him implementing an offensive game plan, to be honest. He does average 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's actually become a much better wrestler, and his jiu-jitsu is rock solid. So much better. So I would say that his offensive wrestling probably not going to be as much of a factor. Maybe going forward when Usman fights Hamzat, that could be a problem for Usman. Maybe defensive wrestling isn't something that he's very familiar with. But I would say that Leon is takedown defense is better. His path to victory is probably going to be striking. It's unlikely to be via KO/TKO. I don't really see it. I see more of a decision in the way of his path to victory is going to be volume striking, elbows, which we saw the viral clip of Leon already. But we're looking at volume striking and avoiding takedowns, and that's pretty much going to be it. I mean, he was plus 1,000 by decision earlier in the week. And I'd say that's most of his win condition, to be honest. So I would say that was a fine bet earlier in the week. I think it's still plus 900, but at other books it's plus 600. So you have to hunt for some value there in order to get Leon at that number. But by decision, I'd say that's your only play. Otherwise, I would say it's probably going to be if you want to bet Leon. Otherwise, I take Usman, probably late finish or knockout. I played Uzman in my article today. I put Uzman over 2.5 rounds. So you get half of round 3, round 4, round 5, and decision. It was minus 179. So you get the minus 350 favor. You get him down to minus 179. That was pretty good. I would say that's probably the play.
You talked a little bit about the improvement that Leon's made, especially since these guys have fought. But what do you make of how Kamaru has improved every time that he's gone out there? You know, he's going through this path of starting to take on a lot of rematches, guys that he's taken on multiple times. For a guy who has grown as much as he has since the last time these guys squared off, how much improvement have you seen from the guy that a lot of people regard as the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter on the planet right now?
I mean, my man has improved drastically. I mean, Kamaru his wrestling is like, I don't want to say Khabib level, but it's really close if it isn't. His wrestling is unbelievable. And his striking has gotten right there to boot. His power is otherworldly. I mean, just look at the guy's body. I mean, he is so strong, and he never gets tired. It's really unbelievable to see the path that he's gone through and just the improvements he's made. There is some concern about maybe his. And John Anik talked about it this week, and maybe his body's breaking down a little bit. He had to get the hand surgery. And everyone talks about his knee problems. That's very well known. He can't run, so he has to do his cardio in the pool. So, I mean, that's just what Kamaru's been dealing with on the side. So, eventually, Kamaru's going to be a fade at some point, just like every fighter. Every fighter's going to be a fade at some point. I just don't know if it's tonight. I would say that Kamaru, his improvement, striking, it's been pretty serious. It's impressive to see how far he's come along. I mean, he's, 21.
You say, look at his body. And if I'm going to be looking at anybody's body tonight, I'm telling you, bro, it's either going to be Paulo Costa or it's going to be Luke Rockhold. Rockhold tonight comes in as a pretty heavy underdog. Haven't seen him in a while. Plus 285. Paulo Costa on the comeback at minus 345. any reason to take Luke, who we haven't seen in the cage in a while, tonight?
I would like to see it. Watch the first half of the first round before you do anything. I want to see Rockhold kind of jab and offensive wrestle his way to victory, but he has never done that in his career. Paulo Costa's he's knocked down Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero's like impossible to knock down, right? Paulo Costa's one of the more talented guys in the division, despite, what we think of him recently with the Vittori performance. And then, Adesanya absolutely rolled through him. So I would say that betting wise, if you want to bet Rockhold, just wait for the first round, see if he gets killed. And he might. He definitely might. But I'd like to see him. Offensive wrestling is not something he's really done in the past. I'd love to see him go back to it, but like he did back in the day against Weidman. So I'd like to see Rockhold do some offensive wrestling, and submission is very possible. He's got one of the better submission games in the middleweight division. So I'd say that Rockhold by submission, if you want to bet him, is probably the play. But that's pretty much it. Submission, decision. But I very hard to see a TKO here. He's got no chin. Anytime he gets rocked, it could be lights out. He could be done within the first 2.5 minutes. Honestly, it's just the chin doesn't recover. He seems not very committed to fighting. Wants to kind of go into modeling, and who can blame him? He's a good-looking guy.
Yes.
Just a quick thought on this, Eric, before we get you out of here. Jose wins tonight. Where do you see as the next guy to get into that title shot for bantamweight? It's a stacked division. Cheeto with the performance he had. We got about 60 seconds left. Where do you think that stands right now, and who should be number one contender if Jose wins tonight, or if Merab does?
I think give me Aldo in Brazil. That'd just be so much fun. I know TJ.
Right.
He beat Corey. I'm totally cool with Corey, with the TJ win carrying. The Corey win carrying TJ to a title. I'll take Aldo though. If he beats Dvalishvili, and he does it, pretty convincingly. He's had a lot of split decisions recently, which is why I gave out the plus 900 on split decision. I would say that that's probably one of the play. Like he's definitely right there. It's between him and TJ more or less. So probably not Cheeto. I know you guys had him. Your boy had him on the podcast last week. So
a boy.
I'll probably go Aldo or TJ for the title of bantamweight.
That's our boy, by the way. Also, Erich Richter of the New York Post. You're locked into the BetQL network.